Greetings. Welcome back to my channel, Ham Radio Test and Review. Today, I'm going to go over a little project that I've been working on using my ClearNode for connecting to AllStar Link, EchoLink, and DMR. The ClearNode connects to the internet via your Wi-Fi router or my Wi-Fi router, and also I'm able to talk to the ClearNode using an HT on a UHF frequency as specified by me in the configuration file. So let's sit back and I'll explain to you what my project is all about. This is my ClearNode. It combines AllStar Link, EchoLink, DMR, and a couple other digital modes. I connect to it using my Wi-Fi router through the internet. And I talk to it using an HT that I have on the same frequency that it transmits on simplex. So the ClearNode only has about a half watt or less of RF power. Now that is more than enough with a little tiny antenna about an inch and a half high to get out in and around an entire house. You can be inside, outside, it doesn't really matter. I'm about 200 feet from the street, and I can get it and hit it all the way down to the street. So I thought it would be nice if I dedicated an HT radio, in this case a Tidradio H3, as a house radio dedicated specifically for talking to and receiving from the ClearNode that I have installed. As you know, most of these cheap Chinese HTs that we get these days are so cheap that you can afford to dedicate one for a very specific project. So what I've done is I've bought one of these lime green or slime green, as I kind of call it, Tidradio H3. So you notice I have a little orange antenna on it. It's kind of cute, but I have worked on a project where I have tested 12 different stubby antennas. Now I have defined stubby antennas as 4 inches in length or less. These antennas don't need to be specifically well versed in being able to receive and transmit, since the real distance that I'm going to be going from my house is only a couple hundred feet down to the street. And so far, all of the antennas I've tested have been able to go that far. So what I've been doing is I've gone through and I've tested each and every one. I've tested them for SWR under power using a Surecom SW102. And I've also tested them using a NanoVNA antenna analyzer to see how the SWR and the impedance is on each and every antenna. Believe it or not, most of these little stubby antennas don't do so bad. Some of them not good enough, like in other words, more than 2 to 1 SWR. But I had 5 of them that were all under 2 to 1 SWR, which I consider okay. And they all seem to work up to about 200 feet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the top 5 antennas with the best SWR and the best SWR and impedance based on the NanoVNA, and I'm going to take them over to a local park that's about a quarter of a mile away and see if I can hit the node and have the node work back to me. I have set up what we call parrot mode on the node, and the node will record and play back and transmit back to me anything that I say to it, very much like a simplex repeater works. And in this case, it's the actual node itself that's doing the work. So stick with me. I'm going to go run over to the park with my TD-H3 from Tidradio. This is an Abbree orange, very soft and flexible antenna. And I've got a handful of 4 more antennas from Bingfu, Nagoya, Gabil, and 1 or 2 others. So I'm going to try all those out, and we'll see how they all work. Okay, I'm back. I think there's a little bit of an echo here. I've never filmed here before, so it's a little kind of a new thing for me to be filming here underneath a gazebo sort of thing. So here I am. I'm about a quarter mile from my home. My ClearNode is set up on top of my bench. It's got a 1.5-inch length antenna that it comes with, and it has about a half a watt, maybe a little bit less, and it's set up in repeater mode at this point. So what I've done is I've got my Tidradio TD-H3, and I have an Abbree orange, very soft, flexible antenna connected to it at the moment. I have it on a BNC mount since I tried to do everything with BNC. And so we're going to try it now. We're going to see how it sounds. I'm going to rate the top 5 antennas that I have. Now, the other 4 antennas, besides the Abbree orange, is I also have the Nagoya NA-810, which is also a nice soft antenna, flexible, and it's actually a lot softer and a lot better feeling than the Abbree, and we'll see how that one performs. I also have a Gabil, I'm sorry, this is a Bingfu antenna. I want you to see this one because it has a very unique shape. It has like a little top hat on it. And that is a UHF only antenna. There's no model number. They just say UHF only. So that's the Bingfu UHF only antenna. It's about 1 inch long. I also have 2 antennas from Gabil. One is a UHF only, and I'll get you the model number of that a little bit later. But as you can see, it's kind of a nice looking antenna, but it's made from hard plastic, and it does it is molded very nicely compared to the Bingfu, which has casting marks and flash and all that kind of stuff. I had to cut some of that stuff off when I got it. But this actually was one of the best performing antennas SWR-wise. And then, last but not least, I have another Gabil antenna. Now, by the way, Gabil is made in Taiwan, and so they're not a Chinese company. They do make the 2 antennas that I have from them are actually pretty good as far as SWR and as far as the antenna analyzer came up with. So the results from all my analyzing were very, very good. Now, this is a copy of the Comet CH32 Miracle Baby. It actually is sort of advertised on Amazon as Miracle Baby, but it doesn't really come right out and call it that. This has its own model number, and it is GRA-SCH32. So again, a little bit like the Comet CH32. It's also about the same length, about 1 3/4 inches, and performance of it so far has been pretty close to the Comet CH32. So this one probably is a little overkill for what I'm going to want to do, but we'll see. We'll see how everything works out. So let me get back to you. This is N8DAV testing the node inside my home. N8DAV testing 1 2 3.
This is N8DAV testing the node inside my home. N8DAV testing 1 2 3.
Well, you heard that one was pretty darn quiet, and it came across very, very nicely. I would say this is probably a pretty good antenna, but you have to understand that I've set this firmware power down to the absolute lowest that I could set it. Now, I had to use, in order to get it down to a half a watt, which matches the node output, I've used a hacked software. That's the NIC, that's NICFW software or firmware, and is a guy named Marcus Dudley, and he's got his own page on Facebook, and he is terrific. He does a great, great job of writing firmware for the TD-H3, and it's absolutely tremendous. And I've been able to get the power on this down to about a half a watt. So we're going to try all these different antennas, and we'll see how they all work. The next one up is the other really soft, flexible antenna. This one's from Nagoya. It's the NA-810. Looks like this. And we're going to try it now. This is N8DAV, testing the node inside my home. Testing 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, testing.
This is NADAV, testing the node inside my home. Testing 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, testing.
So just like the Abbree orange antenna that I just tested, we're getting pretty quiet results. However, there is just a tiny bit of background static. So let's see how the rest of the antennas do. Here is the Bingfu UHF Only antenna. It's hard plastic with lots of flash and stuff like that, but let's see how it works. This is N8DAV, testing 1, 2, 3, testing 3, 2, 1, the node inside my home. This is only a test.
This is NADAV, testing 1, 2, 3, testing 3, 2, 1, the node inside my home. This is only a test.
So with this antenna, there was just a very slight amount more of background static. And we're going to try the next antenna here. This is the Gabil UHF Only. It's actually not a bad looking antenna, and it's been formed and molded very, very nicely. It's also hard plastic. So let's try it and see how this one works. This is N8DAV, testing 1, 2, 3, testing 3, 2, 1, the node inside my home. This is only a test.
This is NADAV, testing 1, 2, 3, testing 3, 2, 1, the node inside my home. This is only a test.
So this one actually had a tiny, tiny bit less of background static. I'm really surprised because if all these antennas are able to make it to the node and back, then we probably should have, I'm thinking, maybe the same amount of static, but there's actually a slight difference. Not enough to write home about. I think I could choose any one of these antennas so far and they'd be okay. Let's do the last one. This is the Gabil GRA-SCH32. So let's try this one. This is N8DAV, testing the node inside my home. Testing 1, 2, 3, testing 3, 2, 1. This is only a test.
This is NADAV, testing the node inside my home. Testing 1, 2, 3, testing 3, 2, 1. This is only a test.
Well, I have to tell you, this was the quietest and the best of all of them. Now, this antenna sells a lot less than the Comet Miracle Baby. And so far with some of the testing I've done, it actually works fairly well. It actually works almost as well as the Comet Miracle Baby itself. And if performance is the absolute maximum that you really need, you might want to consider the Miracle Baby, but it's quite high in price. This one, I believe, is about half the price of the Miracle Baby. So, you know, if performance is absolutely important to you, then you might want to consider the Comet. But if a tiny bit less performance for you is also important to you, and price is important, then you might consider one of these as well. And I suggest you do your own testing and find out for yourself. But so far, I would say this antenna performed the best out of all four. And the next antenna was probably the other Gabil antenna, this little 1.5 inch hard plastic job. Actually looks kind of nice on the radio. And then I would say the Bingfu, the UHF Only antenna, also worked very well. These two soft antennas from Abbree and from Nagoya, they worked well, and but for me, I think they're a little bit too long for my taste. Now, that's just a personal thing. So you might want to consider the length. Now, if you're willing to bang, if you're going to be banging these things up against the walls or whatever, yeah, you might want to take these really soft ones here and use them instead. They'll work just fine. I think all 5 of these antennas will work fine. for the purpose that I have for them, and that's just to be used around my home. As a matter of fact, like I said, down to 200 feet past my home. And so I could pick any one of the 5 and they'd be fine. So I'm going to make a decision based solely on looks and maybe a tiny bit of performance. And let's see what I come up with. Okay, I'm back from the park. And the testing went pretty much the way I expected it. I really didn't expect too much of a difference, if any at all, between any of the antennas. However, there was a very slight difference, and I'm considering the fact that this is a very low power test. The HT was only putting out a 0.5 watt, and these antennas are okay for a 0.5 watt around the house. I mean, they're all going to work just fine. So I have decided on one in particular that I'm going to use, and that is the Gabil. I'm back from the park, and as I expected, there wasn't much difference between any of the antennas. You know, I'm using them only around the house at a 0.5 watt, so they're all going to be able to do the job, and I knew this before I took them out to the park. But I wanted to see if there was any difference at a 1/4 mile, because I want to be able to walk around my neighborhood and still be able to hit my node if I want to, using the same HT that I'm going to use around the house. And I think a 1/4 mile is acceptable, and I think might even get a little bit more if I really wanted to. So the antenna I decided on was the GRA-SH45S. It's a UHF only antenna made by the Gabil antenna company. This got excellent SWR, and it performed admirably here around the house and then also out at the park. So there are my choices. I want you to see what it looks like on the radio itself. So here what it looks like on the radio. I think it looks rather nice. It looks very well made. And on top of all that, it's $12.99 for 2 of them. Now the Bingfu antennas were $4.99 for 2. The Nagoya was about $10, and so was the Abbree. And last but not least, the other Gabil antenna was about $15 on Amazon. So take your pick. If you're going to do a low power project like I am with this one, using the Tidradio TD-H3 at a 0.5 watt, I think any of the antennas that you choose are going to work just fine. And this has been a pleasure and a lot of fun to do this test. My name is Dave. My call sign is N8DAV. That's November 8 Delta Alpha Victor. And I'm signing off and saying so long.